but what made sense to you about this scrimmage in regards to something meaningful that we can take from this? Let's start with the offense.
On offense, so last time you and I talked, I'd gone to the second scrimmage, and the offense did not click. I mean, the quarterback, wide receivers were not on the same page. Overthrown, underthrown balls, drop balls, putting the ball in the field putting the ball on the ground too much. Malik Hornsby, who did do that, I think, at least once, and then another time, but that was on the running backs. That was his fault. TJ Hammonds, I was told. And I did rewatch the scrimmage, but I think I'm all the way up until that point, so I haven't actually had a chance to watch that on the screen yet. But at the stadium, I was told it was on TJ Hammonds. The fluidity looked a lot better, and KJ Jefferson, man, he came out on fire. I don't think he threw an incompletion in that first quarter. I was really impressed with what he was able to do. He clearly is your quarterback one. I've had some people give me some pushback on that. Well, but Malik Hornsby's faster. Okay, well, Malik Hornsby is also putting the ball in the field entirely too much. He looks like he panics, and the first thing he wants to do is run out of the pocket and just take off and run. We haven't seen the passing side yet in a scrimmage where he looks solidified. He didn't do terrible. That's the one thing I don't have are his numbers, but I think I do. Here it is. 11 of 18 for 144 yards and a touchdown. He also had a couple of nice runs. That's not bad. 11 of 18, you'll take that any day of the week, 144 yards. He probably at that point had a couple hundred yards of offense, and you got to consider that was in little more than 2 quarters of play. That's not terrible, but he threw what should have been at least 2 interceptions that were dropped by defenders. He was overthrowing and underthrowing. He looked a little panicked in the pocket. I am hopeful. I do think he has a really high ceiling, and if he sticks it out, who knows what Hornsby's capable of doing. And I do like his speed. Kid looks like he drops like a low 4.4, which is insane for a quarterback. Again, that's just the eye test, right? Watch him, probably runs like a 4.6 40. But, I mean, you get it. He looks quick. And even safeties and corners who have an angle on him or outside linebackers, he just runs right by them. That's an aspect of his game that could come into advantage for Arkansas, and I'm sure they'll have a package for him during the regular season. But KJ throughout this scrimmage, to me, was just clearly he's on another level. His passing game is far more developed. I'm sure he has a better understanding of the offense. I thought another guy that kind of stood out, John David White, walk-on receiver. He's 5'11". I think he's 185 pounds. Was targeted 6 times, caught 5 passes for almost 90 yards and a touchdown. And he did a really good job of when the play would break down, quarterback could roll out of the pocket, and he was there, helping to extend the play and find a way to get open and, catch and check down throws. John David stood out. Knox, again, we talked about him earlier, a guy that I really hope last year was just a sophomore slump. He could be a dangerous weapon, especially in the red zone with that size, 6'5", 210 pounds. He caught a beautiful 50-50 jump ball where he adjusted midair and came down with the catch. It was a great catch. The offense honestly looked really good, and I think Sam Pittman and the staff was pretty pleased. They don't want to give away too much, but I'm sure they looked pretty pleased to me. Pittman had a little bit of a smile on his face when talking about it. So offensively, they look like they're being fine-tuned, and we'll see how they look coming out of fall camp or going into and coming out of fall camp. Obviously, that's when it's most important.
There's always that quandary in evaluating a spring game to say, okay, every time there's a good play on one side of the ball, what happened there? Was it truly a good play or a bad play by the other side? Which obviously the good guys are on both sides when it all comes down to it in the fall. I guess the one thing you can say about the offense making plays, though, is that if the offense, per your example from the previous scrimmage, the offense could be misfiring on throws, they could be dropping throws, and then the defense didn't do anything to prevent that. They were just the beneficiary of bad offensive play, and the result is an incomplete or whatever that's negative for the offense. Whereas if the offense is connecting, that's truly a positive play, if you follow me there.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. That is a good sign. Defensively, your thoughts about who stood out over there?
Well, Dorian Gerald once again was in the backfield at least once or twice. I thought Enoch Jackson, I think he made a couple of good plays. He blew past Ty Clary on the offensive line at least once that I saw early on in the game.
Which could be good news for somebody else. We don't know who that is yet. But,
yeah, could be good news for somebody else. I mean, he had a couple of moments, I think. Looked like he assisted pretty well in the run game, as did Dorian Gerald. And an issue with Dorian Gerald has been obviously not being able to stay healthy, but also not taking plays off. And it looked to me like, for the most part, he was involved in a lot. Like, it didn't seem like he was taking plays off. Jalen Catalon is still every bit Jalen Catalon as one would expect. I mean, he clearly just, man, it's like he knows what's about to happen before it happens. You know, he's just there, and he's there making plays. He did get burned by Treylon Burks on a I don't remember what route it was. It wasn't a fade, but he angled towards the sidelines, and quarterback hit Treylon Burks it was KJ Jefferson on a beautiful throw, and Burks beat Catalon. That was really the only time, and that's understandable. I mean, it is. I mean, you're talking about a possible first-round draft pick beating him out, but Catalon was in on so many plays, and yet I don't think he played at all in the second half, or maybe he did, and it was kind of situational. They rotated him and out, him in and out. Miles Slusher, they had lined up at corner, and I thought that was interesting. This is a guy last year as a true freshman, found his way onto the field and didn't just stand out there and participate. I mean, I think he had 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery. He had, I think, at least a couple of passes defended. I don't remember how many tackles. I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of like 8 or 9 tackles. Again, he's a freshman. He was kind of in rotation. I think he played for an injured player. But he was lining up at corner, and as opposed to safety, again, where he was recruited to play and where he played last year, he's got the speed to play the position, but I thought that was interesting. But yeah, the guys that you expect to stand out stood out. Simeon Blair, who's someone in the first couple of scrimmages looked really good. I didn't see his name called out as much, but he was definitely around the ball quite a bit from what I could tell, or at least it looked like from the angle that I saw. Yeah, there were kind of what you expected. You know, again, it was actually I think an offensive favored scrimmage as opposed to the second one, which was favored by the defense. But the offense was, I mean, Mark, they were fast. They looked faster than they did last year with Franks at quarterback. Obviously, those are in live game situations. We didn't have a scrimmage last year, but we didn't have spring camp at all last year. But it just looks so quick. And the defense, I thought, did a pretty good job for the most part, especially in the second half, keeping up with the pace of the offense. But the backup linebackers looked pretty good. But there's still a lot of questions there, depth and quality depth and what have you. But, yeah, the guys you expected to showed out. And we saw a lot of backups come in, a lot of younger guys. But for the most part, I thought Catalon stood out to me. The most of anything on defense, it was definitely Catalon's game. I think he, tackle-wise, stats on paper-wise, he may not have stood out, but he was in, it seemed like, on every single play.